Hello. So I study the Cretaceous of Saskatchewan, and the Cretaceous is a time period 145 million years ago to 65 million years ago, and Saskatchewan looked very different at that point in time. So as you can see by the map that I have there, it was inundated by a massive seaway. And the reason that seaway existed at this point in time is because the Rocky Mountains were actually building. So the entire world is made up of a series of plates, and these plates move around. And at this time, the Pacific plate is slamming into the North America plate. And because it's building the Rocky Mountains, it basically causes the interior of the continent to bow. And because there's no polar ice caps, global sea level is high, therefore Saskatchewan's inundated by this sea. So the climate at this point in time was essentially tropical. And because it was tropical, there was a lot of organisms that exist now down along the coast of Florida that lived in Saskatchewan. So Saskatchewan was basically this subtropical environment with dinosaurs and turtles and crocodiles. So our question became, can we find sites in Saskatchewan that are like those in Alberta, because Alberta is also very famous for dinosaurs, and can we relate these to Alberta and then essentially relate them to something in the modern age? So we actually did go out and find a site, and that site is about 40 kilometers north of Swift Current, and it's along the South Saskatchewan River. So we would walk in 5 miles every day to look at this, and we would hike back with several pounds of dirt basically on our backs, and then we would stare down a microscope for the next while, figuring out what these fossils are. And what these fossils turned out to be are remains of dinosaurs and turtles and crocodiles. And what we can tell is that as you look up through this site and as you study it, it actually goes from being completely terrestrial to completely marine. So it turns into a sea. And that's significant because this actually serves as an analog to how climate change essentially today is going to affect coastlines. So we have figured out that animals living at this point in time are significantly affected by these changes, and there's actually a changeover in the animals living there at this time when the sea recedes again, and basically it comes back and builds out and becomes coastline. So our next question becomes, after we've done this study, is can we relate this to modern places like the Florida Everglades that are actually going to experience this kind of massive effects of climate change and the melting of the polar ice caps, which is inevitably going to happen. So thank you.